Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to Mending Threads, a transformation series, your safe place and your stronghold for whole body wellness. And we're going to have a topic coming up. Today, we're going to look at how to implement whole body wellness and looking at racial reconciliation in the United States and how the church can help. And we have with us a speaker this morning who is a pastor and an author, and I think has been living what he's speaking. And we're going to find all about it and find out how we can get twixt in between the message, and so that we can begin to do the same thing in our lives of something very similar and reach the meaning and purpose of our being and of the word or message that we have. So we have with us today Dr. Craig Hayes. He is author of Nehemiah's Challenge, Rebuilding the Broken Gates of Your Life. But first, before we get into all of that, we want to find out a little bit about Dr. Hayes, because for him to get up this morning, although we're taping this morning early, it means that he must really believe in something about what he's saying. So, Dr. Hayes, if you could tell us just a little bit about how you got into this whole area of ministry and some of the things that have brought you to this place.
Well, thank you for having me this morning. It is a
Yes.
pleasure. I have had my coffee, so I'm okay. I'm okay. So, Dr. Lewis, I appreciate what you're doing and the effect that you're having on the community. How I came to this space is I have been in ministry full time for a little over 20 years. And I used to be a banker. And as I was a banker, I used to advise people. That's when all you have to do is advise people behind the desk.
Yes.
And I noticed that so many people had all the information around them, but they didn't want to access it. So I spent a lot of time talking to them about accessing
Mhm.
information and how it was at their fingertips. And so, God started stirring my heart, and we started a nonprofit called the Lighthouse Center. And so we opened up the first ever resource center inside of a mall with free counseling, free seminars,
Yes.
um, information. We had a information library from over 100 nonprofits. And so that's how we started, and that burning desire in my heart to give people better information, and so was born the tag. And I'm saying this because this is at the root of what we do in the ministry, is
Mhm.
that better information given with love fosters hope for change. And
Yes.
so
Mhm.
that is what we live by. That's the mandate that God has given us. And so everything we do is about qualifying great information, giving it or delivering it with care and love, which
Mhm.
fosters hope. And as you know, once people have hope,
Yes.
then they
Yes.
start to change. And so it's been a journey. And my wife, my family have been wonderful. And so we have been blessed to have a wonderful ministry. And
Mhm.
we work with pastors in other countries. We work with pastors and ministers locally. And so we're just determined to help people reach their vision that is God given, their power, which they have on the inside. And we're praying and we're hoping that what we do will have a legacy, not a legitimacy,
Yes.
because then you start to look at other people and compare yourself with other people, but a legacy. Uh, and so
Yes.
that's what we're looking for.
Well, you're just so right on time. I don't know if you know that that is very similar to our mission
Mm,
and what we're doing to help people access care resources. And one of the things that we realized earlier on in our efforts with AIDS epidemic earlier and
mm,
now with the COVID, but even with life challenges, is that the pastors or lead community leaders are so key to this, and that
yeah,
maybe, and we were praying that if we could just harness
yeah,
pastors that really had the passion um, for reaching out to people in the community, helping to tool them. And so we came up with the pastor's call to action. And so right now we're calling pastors one by one, five by five, to come in and share their training in the community, share their gift, because the people that we work with tend to go to their pastors first. And what we found is that the pastors were telling us many of the cases they didn't know what to do. They didn't know how to respond after they said the scripture or they did this. They had not gotten into looking at how resources and information could be said and explained and given hope in a different way, you
yeah,
see, and put together so that it gave purpose to the person they were speaking with. And so I
yeah.
was delighted when I read information that you were also into this harnessing business and that you had started. So I wanted to kind of hear about how you have used the need for access within your church, because I understand that you're working with people around the world, of course, but that you're also the senior pastor at Crossing Point Christian Church in Rosharon. And I know that I want to see how you have embellished the call that you have and bridged it with what the pastoral care and outreach that you have.
Well, yeah, you're exactly right. And our mission statement at the Cross, Crossing Point Church, affectionately known as the Cross, uh,
Mm-hmm.
is that we our mission statement is to reposition the church into the center of the American community and culture.
Yes.
That is our mission statement. I often talk about this with pastors and politicians alike that what place can you get a group of people together once or twice a week that are willing to learn, to grow, to listen to instruction, and have a desire to grow and to do better, right? And to make more of an impact. And this is the power and the influence that pastors, that churches have that many times we've lost. And so in
Yes.
this modern day and time, this is one of the things that drives me crazy that that's so important to pass on to the next generation of pastors and also to those who are new in the pastorate and in ministry is understanding their influence, understanding their accountability and their responsibility. And so one of the things that I always talk to pastors about, if I'm doing the training or whatever the case may be, is that number one, you have to be a curious person and you got to get out of your comfort zone
Yes.
and you have to be a consumer of information so that you can dispense it to the populace. And so early on, I went into to get my certification in Christian counseling, and this is before you could do it in 2 weeks. It took me 3 years
Yes. Yes. Yes.
and some internships, and I'm
Yes.
like,
Yes.
so so it is important for pastors to understand the emotional state, the psyche, to understand the heart, to be able to not be so heavenly minded that they're no earthly good.
Yes.
And so we have to also understand partnership. And you've alluded to that before. And that's why I'm excited about hearing what you're doing, is
Yes.
that it takes partnership.
Yeah.
I speak to ministers all the time, and many times churches are hindered because they feel as though they don't have the resources,
Mm-hmm.
um, because they're watching too much TV,
Yes.
and looking at too many people on YouTube doing things that
Yes.
they have comparisonitis. But
Mm-hmm.
you can get more done by partnering. The
Yes.
community wants to see us answer relevant problems. And
Yes.
so there are people like yourself, there are people like myself and others who are doing things, who have partnerships, collaborations that are looking for individuals, looking for other pastors, looking for other organizations to come in and to partner with us. And so, and partner with yourself. And I applaud you, and I think that is so important for pastors to understand. It's about equipping,
Right.
and so many times we take for granted that pastors um, know and have access to better information or exposure to programs, and a lot of times that's just not the case because we come out of so many varied situations, and
Mm-hmm.
so there has to be a hub, um, a more of a hub in which people can access, like you're talking about, where we can connect together, where there's no competing, where there's no,
Yes.
and I'm gonna say it, but I think this is very important. For if pastors are listening, I think it's so important. What is for you is for you, and there's no need for comparisonitis.
Mm-hmm.
We all have a role to play in our community, no
Yes.
matter how big or how small. And so once we remove that out of the equation, then the mission becomes clear. It does not have to do with leveraging, monies. It doesn't have to do with I can get 50 million people if I just join with this particular organization or program, because then you have mission drift.
Yes. Yes.
And so that's a problem. And so if we take care of and address what we have been assigned or what our niche is, then everything else will fall in place. And I know you've seen that. I've seen that.
Yes. Yes.
If you've been around, for those who have been around any time
Mm-hmm.
in a business or organization, you understand that when you address your core constituency, uh, things start to happen.
Yes.
and
Yes.
and somehow
Yes.
the bills get paid. Somehow you look up
Yes.
and it's 2 years later, 5 years
Yes.
later, 10 years later, and many times we wait around to see what the flowers look like when they fully bloom. But that's not what we're called to do. We're called to plant seeds. We're called to water and move
Yes,
on.
yes, 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 and that's what I'm saying. So you were speaking about being moved to do certain things. So as I'm listening to you speaking, you know that there's so many obstacles,
Mm,
and you have to know within yourself that you're being asked to do that, and you have to take the
yeah,
time to do that. And I know that I'm being asked and led to go up this hill, and I sense very strongly that I have the word that's saying to do that, because it is saying that you need to call all of these people who have a touch of the spirit together to heal the community. So what we're doing, and as you mentioned, you're a Christian counselor, is that now I know you spent thousands of dollars. So, and I'm trying to convince pastors, because we were so blessed
yeah,
to have an opportunity to get rid of all those thousands of dollars with a donation of $150 to nationally certify and provide certification, national certification, but also the training, the weekly supervision, and get them to give back to their community while they're doing the supervision to heal the people in their community. To do this is something that is going to be
Mm.
a movement.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a movement, but we got to push past the struggle, what you're talking about, and you got to be one of these people.
Yeah.
So I'm hearing it from you,
Yeah.
and there's several people. Sometimes you can hear, you listen, and you can sense when the person is aligning not only what you want to do, but what needs to be there.
Yeah.
Okay, so
If
yes,
I may
you
say, Doctor,
yeah,
that is, I love what you're doing, and this is something to pass on to all the pastors you run across.
yes,
Understanding counseling,
yes,
having that ability, it has helped me more, not only in dealing and understanding the congregants, the parishioners, but it has helped me understand how to minister better as I get up and stand before people.
yes,
It understanding how to because we serve the great counselor, the wonderful counselor,
mm,
and so when we get up and minister, that which I was equipped with comes
mm,
out through my message. And
mm,
so it is so helpful for ministers to understand the aspects of counseling, understand people, because we're in the
yes,
people business.
mm-hmm,
And so you can do a lot worse, right, than to go through this. So I encourage, if there whoever's listening, I encourage you to go through that program. And I love your heart for dropping that cost, because I did spend some money,
yeah, I
and
know you did.
I
I know
did.
you did.
Yeah, we started a program called Apostello, which trains ministers and gives them access to educational resources. And Apostello comes from the word
Mhm.
sent, those who are
Yes.
sent. When Jesus sent the 70, he said, I send you out. That's the Greek word apostello. And so I think that individuals like yourself and me and many others have resources out there that need to be taken advantage of.
Oh, that's so wonderful, and I'm really thank you for that. I'm really on with this, and any insights anybody have, but we'll be following up with you.
Mm,
Um, I want to know more about what led you to write this book,
mm,
Nehemiah's challenge, and you can kind of lead some people who have not known in the story of Nehemiah,
mm.
and all what and very and his caring of the king and how he got where he is. But if you could share that with us, what led you to write this book, and let's know more about this. Hmm.
Well, thanks for that. The Nehemiah Challenge. This is the second book I wrote. I wrote the first book was called The Banker's Guide to Credit Repair, and that's when I was
Uh-huh.
a banker.
Okay. Oh, good.
so,
Yes. Yes.
trying to help people improve their credit. But later on, I wrote the Nehemiah Challenge, and Nehemiah Challenge, rebuilding the broken gates of your life. Nehemiah, as was alluded earlier, is a wonderful story in the Bible, dealing with one of the prophets who was an advisor to a king. And I'm not going to get super detailed, just because
Hmm.
many people may not have their Bible, may not know the story. But advisor to the king learns that his city has been attacked, and the city has had the walls torn down. And not only did they come in and tear all the walls down, but they burned the gates too. Well, um, it reminded me, as you know, I've studied that story over the years, I've ministered on that story. It reminded me of how we are as individuals. And so I shaped the book around the story of Nehemiah and specifically the city. And so as Nehemiah speaks to the king, he says, I have to go back and I have to help my city. And he goes back and he collects timber from Lebanon. He goes with resources. And so he shows up and he finds everybody rebuilding the walls, and they're doing a great job. But he is still needed, his resources are still needed to rebuild the gate. Now, the wall represents our outside life. And so many times as individuals, we have the walls up and we
Mm-hmm.
look like we're okay. We're going back to work. We're back in the relationship. You know, we're going about life. The walls are up. But the problem is
Mm-hmm.
that the enemy has burned the gates. And those gates give people access to the inner part of the city. They also protect from attack. They also are gateways to going out of the city. Now, here's the thing. Many times in our life, our outside life can be back to normal as people think.
Mm-hmm.
And we can be going good. And you know this as a
Mm-hmm.
doctor, you understand this, that while we keep going through cycles, and this is the thing that really bothered me as a pastor, I see a lot of people going through cycles
Yes.
and they get better. You give them great information, they get better, but then they go right back to doing
To
the
the
same
same.
thing over time. And so, you know, when you're talking about drug counseling, um, then the first thing you ask is, what's your gateway drug? Right?
Yes.
What is that that opens the door to the rest of this type of behavior? And so it's the same thing that we seek to do and address through the book. I seek to address through the book and in ministry is is you know, how can we restore that gate?
Yes.
Right? How can we put that gate up? Because if we can put that gate up, it makes the walls more effective
Yes.
and
Mm-hmm.
the enemy can't get in, and the enemy may be a person, it whatever. Let me use a different word, your Achilles heel, right?
Yes. Yes.
As you know, your Achilles heel, your weakness, your temptation.
Yes.
um you know, what is it that opens the door for the rest of the bad behavior?
For
And so it
example, we talk about wellness. So, speaking of the bad behavior, the gateway, if I see a dessert, it's all over. So I have to
no.
freeze. I have to freeze. I have to freeze the dessert so that I won't even see it. Just put it away and freeze it.
Just
Then
put it.
I'm cool. I'm cool then.
But the thing is that you know yourself.
That's
A-
mm-hmm,
And so the book is about helping people to understand and to ferret out
mm-hmm,
what it is, right? And to rebuild a gate like you do. Your gate, part of your gate is number one, you understand that you have a gate that you need to put a barrier up. It needs to be closed, right? And you need
yes.
to open it when you want to
Want
open
to
it.
open it? That's right.
Right. And so your gate, part of your gate is freezing your food, right? Freezing the
Yes.
dessert.
Yes.
Sometimes you have to get away from toxic relationships, but you have to understand who toxic people are. And
Yes.
then not only that, you have to understand why birds of a feather flock together. Why are you
Together.
attracted to these people?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
What is that need that you have? And so once that is identified, then in the Nehemiah challenge, then it switches and starts to talk about how you can find what your purpose is.
Yes.
How can you live on purpose, right? Not just randomly, because many times we have been held back in life because those open gates. And for those who are listening, just when you feel as though you're making it over the hill, you
Mm.
slide back down.
Yes. Yes.
And just when you feel life is coming together, it starts falling apart.
Mhm.
And so we all go through ups and downs, but many times these are self-inflicted wounds. And so if we can just get individuals to realize to stop the self-infliction,
Mhm.
they can handle the rest of the problems most of the time. And
Yes.
so that's the premise of the Nehemiah challenge, is just helping people not only look the part, but to live the part
Yes. Yes.
from the inside out.
Yes. So what do you think is what one nugget would you tell them leave them that would be the point that could get them to go, oh, what could they say to themselves, think to themselves, or remind themselves of to actually get them to move in that forward direction or think about it?
Yeah. Well, I mentioned this word earlier, and you know, we've had people, constantly buying the book for Bible studies and for their personal use off of Amazon. And one of the themes that I keep hearing, and we've talked about this before, is hope.
Yes.
Is when you get qualified information that resonates, that answers issues, it builds hope.
Yes.
And I just want to communicate to people, and it's not only the Nehemiah Challenge that people are purchasing. There are other books, there are other series that people can purchase from individuals that have great information, that give that hope, that give that tooling, uh, those practical steps that uh, an individual may not even understand how to get to. And this is another thing, as you know, and those who are listening, a lot of times don't realize when you're sitting with the counselor, is that the counselor is really taking you along a path, and a path that you may have been crossing all the time, but you just didn't put it all together.
Mm-hmm.
That path leads you down a road to help, to hope, to change. And so this book is just organized in a way to help build that hope, to keep them on a certain path of realization of the things that are in their life and the things that they may be lacking,
Mm-hmm.
the things that may be a hindrance to them. And so once it's identified, it's like cutting the light on in the room. You're not going to trip over the furniture anymore. And that's what this book seeks to do, is cut the light on in some dark places.
Right. And sometimes, and I guess helping them recognize and acknowledge with internally and externally that
Mm,
just because it feels better
sure.
doesn't mean that you stop.
Right.
Just because the pressure eases off, that it has to be a little bit more than that so that you can sustain and that the resilience and the forward moving remains. So,
Right.
yes.
Yeah. We don't, I think I put it in this statement right here. The book is intended not for people to live good, but
Mm-hmm.
for people to live right.
Purposeful. Mm-hmm.
Because living good, you can have 2.5 kids and a dog. You can maintain a job. You can look like you're a functioning individual, but still have those open gates that on the inside you're dying, right? On the inside, you're stagnant. And so just because the outside looks good, right, doesn't mean on the inside it's right.
Right.
So understanding the difference there. And again, it's not about legitimacy, um, what people think, right? At the end of the day, you have to be happy with your effort and yourself.
Yes, yes. Well, I see that you're very happy with your efforts and yourself. I know that you're a father of six
Yeah,
children. You married your high school sweetheart, and you've been married for about 25 years.
that is
And
correct.
you're really moving in this in the thing as the spirit is, they say, and it seems like you got yourself a little move forward moving team over there. You know,
Yeah, yeah. But I tell you what, I mean, our kids have, my wife, A, is number one, wonderful. Our kids are wonderful. We have two kids in grad school. We have two kids that are
you
in
don't look
college.
like it.
Uh, well, I tell you what, I look a lot younger if I wasn't pastoring.
Yes, I know that.
But I tell you what, we have a high schooler and a middle schooler, and they're awesome. And I mean, they're better than we deserve. I guarantee you that. So, but and I just want to give this encouragement to those who are out there, because many times, uh, we have kids, we have, many things going on, and you know, you can make it.
Yeah.
And we don't have all the resources in the world, but again, because of people like Dr. Lewis, who are out there, and others who have resources, who have gone for their purpose, who have stepped out on faith, they've encouraged us, right? And we have sought out those type of resources that you are providing, Dr. Lewis, and others that have allowed us to live a high quality life without having all the resources,
Well,
right?
I'm thanked that I met you this morning. I'm thinking that we're talking about this. I want you to stay on, and I'm glad that you're here, Dr. Hayes. We have with us this morning, and I want them to bring her on, Sister Mama Sonia. Okay, sisters in the three sisters in the spirit, and I was hoping that we had with us Mr. James Faulkner. Um, okay, very good, very good. Thank you. These are we. I wanted to explain that. Welcome, Mr. Faulkner, and welcome, Sister Mama Sonia. We have thinking of resources and what we're doing in the community. We're looking at. You mentioned bringing hope to people, and sometimes music and hearing the word, and also drama to young people with the stories of understanding who they are, where they come from, and looking at how scripture and how history and their spirit, and having them express some of their troubles, and speak to it and write about it, gets them to understand their purpose, moves them to understand the purpose and what they need to do, not only for youth, but for adults. So, one of the things that we looked at and we were led to do is to put together a resource for schools, churches, to bridge that gap and have that readily available. So all they have to do is access that as a resource. And I want to thank Mr. Faulkner, who is a theater, he's in theater, and also Sister Mama Sonia. So I'm going to ask, you were able to hear what Dr. Hayes was talking about. And so I really want to ask you some of the questions. How did either one of you, other than my asking you for this program, but earlier on, how did you get involved in what you're doing? And we want to spend a few minutes talking about that today. Can you hear me?
Well, to begin with, I can hear you. Yes.
Yes.
I wasn't able to hear the whole thing. For some reason or other, I'm cutting in and out. But hopefully, I'll get this in before I cut out again. My thing is not. I don't deal with scripture at all. I deal with history mostly in dealing with what I do in writing and whatnot. The history is there. It's real. It's not something that someone has to make up. It's not something that someone has to convince you to deal with. It's there. It was done. and history is very real, and I get that. I got into the business State an academic scholarship in astrophysics and astronomy. My father was one of the first black aerodynamic engineers to build jet fighter aircraft for the military and worked at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. So he guided me towards science, and my mother, who was an award-winning teacher, guided my brother toward business. But we were both artists. My brother could have been a famous painter. He started drawing at the age of 5 and that, other kids were doing their usual thing. He was drawing things like rockets taking off from gantries and planes in the sky and things like that. And it was just those things where black parents in the 50s wanted you to be successful, and so they led you into those type of art was not something that my family looked at as a viable income source. So we were kind of guided away from that. But when I got to Michigan State in my junior year, I had the epiphany that we all have when we reach that crossroad where we can go be one thing and the other. And I was taking some art classes, writing classes, and things like that, basically to get some easy A's because I was always a good writer. And photography, I was always a good photographer. So I took those type classes during the summer so I could be an in-state student and pay less tuition because something was happening with me and I could just feel that I needed to do that. And when I made the decision to go toward art, I knew that I was making a very, very big decision in my life, changing it, going from definite income to maybe income and all types of other things like that. And also had to deal with the fact that my father, it took him about 10 to really come around to understand that this was my life. I always heard, even when I got awards, like I was named one of the outstanding young men of America by the United States Junior Chamber of Commerce. I told him that. And the first thing he said was, well, that's good, son, but when are you going to get a real job? And then I got an award from the governor at the governor's mansion. My theater company formed. We got an award sent by the state legislature. I told him about that. Same thing. Oh, that's when you're going to get a real job. But until he came to see one of my shows at the Detroit Music Hall, 5,000 seats, standing room only, it was then that he understood. And I remember probably one of our great father-son moments when he actually came to see the show. He came to the cast party afterwards at my house. He was leaving. My wife came to me and said, "Father's leaving." He hadn't said a word to me. And so I went out in the driveway and said, "Hey, what are you doing?" And he finally got out of the car. He had brought a couple with him, and they were getting ready to drive back to Ohio from Detroit. And he said, "I'm I'm so sorry. I've totally you for all this time. You're really good at what you do. Your people love you. I was wrong." And we had a
So,
big hug, one of those moments that
so
you
that's
all
one of those
remember
messages.
as a man with your father
Was
that
that
I
your hope?
actually,
That was your hope. That one of those things that take you to your hope and kind of like validated your purpose or let you see that you were on your way to the purpose. But I was trying to see this morning. I know that we're doing the fun zone, and we know that our theme is rebuild to renew beliefs and rebuild faith and reconnect families and communities toward transformation. And I've heard all about the theater that you and Sister Mama Sonia. Sister Mama Sonia is more into the spirit of the theater, and you're more into the history of the theater. So I would like to also, you heard Mr. Faulkner, and I heard great things about him in the theater. And they tell me once he portrays something that sticks in your mind. I've heard it's all over Third Ward and areas of Houston, and I know that this is going to bring to fruition messages that will heal people in the community. And Sister Mama Sonia, I know that you're partnering up with this fun zone that we're doing with the Methodist churches right now and all of the churches in Houston, but we're starting off with the group that's requested it. And can you talk a little bit about Three Sisters? And we have about 10 minutes or so. And I want to bring this home about what we're doing with what Pastor Hayes is talking about, hope, building hope, and how we need to heal the spirit. So can you and Mr. Faulkner kind of talk a little bit about that? Yes.
Well, first of all, good morning, and I
Good
enjoyed
morning.
Dr. Hayes' presentation. Um, Three Sisters in the Spirit is a theater company, well, a theater experience that was developed by me and my two sisters. One is transitioned on, but her spirit still lives with us. And we harvest hope, healing, and harmony through theater. We do stories on history, herstory, and on a myriad of other social service issues. Because I feel that if I can get on stage, I can give you a lecture on HT, on adoption, and all this other stuff. But if you do it through theater, people are more receptive to it. I do use history, herstory, and also use scripture because you can bring the Bible alive. Sometimes the only Bible people see is you, is what you do. So we've been working with children and adults. My sister, the one that's still sleeping, she is a therapist, a psychologist, so she brings that aspect to it, and I bring the theater. I'm in recovery. I'm in recovery from the legal profession. Once I realized, I mean, it was good. I mean, it was good being a lawyer. I did some, stuff, but through theater is wonderful. So what we want to do with this program, I'll be working with the to 2-year-olds. I mean to second graders. And that's an interesting group, but they have so many issues that if we don't start them off early, they will grow as they get older and then it becomes a problem. So we're going to show them how to express their feelings through theater. We have a little song that we use every time we start. It goes like this. Fun and play is how we learn today. Thinking, moving, sometimes zooming through the day. Love you and loving me. We're the family. Fun and play, fun and play. Fun and play is how we learn today. Loving you and loving me. We're the same family. Fun and play, fun and play. We're not doing music, but we're doing, and that's how we're going to start off each session to get in their head to know that they need to love themselves first. We can't teach children anything, for me, unless we teach them that they are something special. So we're going to go how to love themselves, and if you love yourself, then you can better treat people. So we're going to do it through theater. I'm going to have puppets with the kids. Hopefully, they'll be able to make the puppets of their size, and we're just going to make up little vignettes, 5 to 10 minute vignettes on them, and let them do it as much as we can with a pre-K.
And
And
I
that's
think
our vision.
Mr. Faulkner has the grades 3 to 5, I think, grades. And so, Mr. Faulkner, is it one thing that is he still on?
Third grade.
Well, maybe. Hmm. Okay, then maybe he's not still on. One of the things. Hmm, I can't hardly hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, I'm not
Okay,
saying
one of
anything. Yes, I can hear
oh,
you.
okay then. Very good. And where I wanted to add that you have also included, we have sign language, and we'll have some Spanish in there. We'll be looking at family interventions, but from an intergenerational family point of view to heal pains within the community and using the strengths that we know we have. And so we're going to look at that. I think I want to read more of Dr. Hayes' book to see what we can do. And I'll be talking with you this week to see how we can do that as a resource with the community and move it forward. So I'm really thankful that you are all, and I want to thank Mr. Faulkner. Mr. Faulkner is so, I want to say, such a leader in the community. And with Sister Mama Sonia, and bridging that together. If you could imagine with young people, it's not being in the school, taught in the schools at this time, and bringing all of those pieces of thinking together with the idea about what is really inside of you and where it comes from, and integrating all of that. If you could imagine, I don't want to say we'll go back to something that was meaningful, more meaningful earlier, or understood in a different way, but I think we'll be bringing it to fruition to now as to how to deal with current situations. So, anybody have a last thing that they would like to say that we did not cover, just to leave the people with some message today or some thought? I can't.
I think
I just want to
that
thank you. Oh,
So, each one of you, Dr.
go
Hayes,
ahead,
can you
sir.
go first, and then
first.
Mr. Faulkner, and then. Mhm.
Well, I just want to thank you for the opportunity, and I look forward to um, seeing the rest of the effort that is made in the community and collaborating together. Because as we do, I think that we're going to leave a better future for this present and the next
Okay,
generation.
I'm glad to
So I
have you.
thank you.
Mr. Faulkner, can you hear me?
I think that today we are in such a, yes, I can. I think today that we are in such a fluid and flexible situation, not only a pandemic, but finally people to mobilize and get out and deal with racial inequality, as well as other things. This is a great time to be doing this and to bond together the arts, science, psychological health, mental health, in way that we can form a community that is well based in health, but well based in how we think, because we have to think a little bit differently. We have to start being more willing to work with others, like we have to be able to talk to each other, even though we're wearing a mask. And I think that those things are very, very important. And I think we need to be open-minded to listen to not just people that we know, but people that we don't, and people that have different philosophies. I'm sure I have a different philosophy than all the rest, but we're still aiming at the same thing. That's what's important.
Thank you. Sister Mama Sonia.
Sister?
Sister Mama Sonia, can you hear me?
And I thank you again, Dr. Lewis, for giving us this opportunity. But you know what's so exciting is we want to make sure that in everything. Can you hear me?
No,
Hello?
no.
Hello? Dr. Lewis.
Yes,
Dr. Lewis.
I
I'm
can hear
talking.
you.
You
No,
can't
we
hear me?
can't hear you.
All right. One thing
Okay, well we missed her comments, but I'm sure we're gonna have her back on. We're gonna have both of them back on, and we'll get a chance to talk. Also, people can send in their information at this time, so they can send in questions and information. We will follow up, and remember, you can go to www.houstonpublicaccesstv.com at 7 o'clock on next Tuesday. We will air. We're going Facebook Live at this time, and we'll also, you can review it on YouTube. But I'm really thankful that everybody's here. Thankful, Sister Mama Sonia, Mr. James Reed. I know that we're going to hear Mr. James Faulkner. We're going to hear from you a lot, and Dr. Hayes. And thank you for being on early this morning. I want to let you know that you have been listening to Mending Threads, a transformational series. I'm thankful that you're here this morning. Um, and remember to go to our website, wrc-houston.com. You may donate to help a pastor or others engage in the mental health coaching and counseling program to be certified and active in the community. You can email us at ips.health1@gmail.com. This information will be rolling at the end of the show. You will see that. If you have to call, please give us a call at 281-381-2276. And if we're not there, leave us a message as to how we can contact you. Our goal is to make a move in the community to heal and bring whole body wellness. I want to thank you for being with us today. And remember this, it is not the circumstances we meet, it is the manner in which we respond that determines our health, happiness, and success. I want to thank you for being today. Thank you, Mr. Faulkner. Thank you, Dr. Hayes. And thank you, Sister Mama Sonia. Okay, have a great day. Okay.
Thank you. Uh-huh.